Anybody hear me? Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
I can hear you just fine.
Somebody talk.
Yes,
See if I
can.
can hear you.
Hello.
Nope.
How hear us?
Hey, let's try that again. Anybody talk?
Can you not hear us, or can you hear us? This
Uh,
is your
No.
partner in crime, Angela Luke, talking. Can you hear me? Everybody else can hear me though, right?
Yes.
You sure can? Yes.
I
Awesome.
can barely hear you. Okay. Shoot.
Turn up your volume.
We keep talking.
Well, for some reason, those
I think you have to
earbuds
take
are
your
not
earplugs out.
working.
He's still not figuring out, Laura. Stop. Can you hear us now, Nelson? Do you want me to sing
See
a
if I can
song?
get this
Sing
figured
out
out.
loud. Is that working for you? That's not working for you either. Nelson Hodges, can you hear me? Everyone else can, but you cannot. Okay, these people are getting tired of me singing. Hold on. Let's see if I can put something in the chat for him. Nelson, we can hear you, but you cannot hear us. Oh, hold on. Hello.
Okay. I just had to change back. Can you hear me now?
We can always hear you. Can you hear us?
I can now. I had a new mic and all that system, and mic's fine. Hi, Mike. And but some reason I cannot get these earbuds to work very well. I could barely hear you. I could actually hear you, but I couldn't hear much.
Did
So,
you hear my beautiful singing?
no.
Oh,
God,
you
I
missed out.
mean, too
Everybody
bad.
else got to enjoy it though.
Enjoy is a carefully selected
Hey,
word.
hey,
No,
hey,
I'm
hey,
kidding.
hey, hey, hey.
Well, I couldn't hear
Come
it,
on.
so
Hey.
okay. Uh, we'll wait a couple of minutes. It's just now 7. Okay. Things here while we're waiting.
And now he's disappeared. Hi, Kyle. How's it going?
Going well. How are you?
Just lovely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's been one of those weeks for me too. Lovely weeks.
No, really, it's been lovely. It's been good. Like all is well.
All is well. Yes.
Yeah.
Good attitude, Angela.
Yeah, you know what? Adapt and improvise. Somebody we know says that a lot.
Couldn't tell you who that was.
Yeah. Name starts with an N, last name starts with an H. Oh, good gosh, what was that? What? We're just a comedy of errors today.
Do
Are you all
not
right?
ever look into a 5,000 lumen LED light when you turn it on. Oh my goodness. Woo.
Good googly moogly.
Whoa. I hate when that happens. Ah, yeah, that really brightens up the room.
Great way to start with the devil is in the details. You missed that detail. So you got a little bit of the devil that
Yeah,
just
all I
saying.
see is this kind of white, blue, and red spot in my eyes. Hmm. Oh, that was very exciting.
It is.
Whew.
You're right.
I, yeah, I think I'll survive that. My eyes may not, but I will.
Tammy says we got a real comedy show going on tonight.
I
She's
guess.
not kidding.
Yeah, like like Monty Python comedy.
Yeah. Didn't you do a post on Facebook today about Monty Python?
Yeah, John Cleese and the. Well, that was interesting.
Thanks to everybody for coming tonight, even though it's a little bit wackadoo starting out the first 5 minutes of our call, but we're very thrilled you're all here.
All right. I guess it doesn't really matter if you see me well or not. You just need to hear me. So,
We see you
okay.
too.
Hello, guys and gals. Sorry. All right. So we'll go ahead and get started a little bit. I could have taken this subject a number of different ways. Because you could apply this little title to just about anything in the universe. So I hope I do this justice by um, talking about kind of a generality more than so it's deep, but it's broad in this case rather than very narrow and deeper. So I hope I do some of this justice. I hope it helps you know with your thinking and perspective and certainly spending your time listening to me babble, some monkey chatter as I call it. And so, but before, okay. I started to do this last time, and I said, no, I'll put it off till this time. I wanted to kind of open the floor, so to speak, with anybody that could, little input, if you will. Um, I, I'm curious how you guys, first of all, um, how does this particular um, monthly talk fit into what you do, what you're interested in, what helps, what doesn't help, um, just anything. How does this particular thing fit in for you, particularly you individually? Um, I'm curious. I need that feedback so that I know where to take this this whole year. So, um, who's first, or is anybody willing to be first? Okay, Kyle, you got the floor, not the walls, just the floor.
um, I can give you two perspectives how this is going to help me this year, and I already kind of shared it with you privately. Due to financial reasons, I won't be able to pursue a lot of the courses this year with CHRI. And for me, this is a wonderful, I want to say supplement, but that's probably not the right word, but it's going to help me continue my education in a way that I won't feel like I'm uh, uh, not doing anything with CHRI, which, as you know, I really want to continue my education. And I think this will really help me financially for this year so that I can be better prepared for next year, better in a better position financially. So that's how that helps me. This continues my education in that way. The other quick thing is I shared a story with you regarding Titus and giving him an out. And I've missed the last 2 months, November and December. And without me realizing the incident happened in January of this year, 2 months later. And the last talk I had that I took notes on and was with you was in October, and it was give the dog an out. And so to me, I mean, shoot, like 2 months later, that education and that discussion manifested or actualized in my way of relationship with Titus. And so those are two things that came to my mind and how this monthly subscription helps me personally with the dog and also continuing my education.
Okay. Okay. Thanks for that, Kyle. I mean, part of the intent was to basically have kind of a continuing education aspect to this and keep more of a, rather than a roller coaster ride of, class and up and then a wide valley between times, is to, actually um, have discussions or information monthly, on a monthly basis, so it's a little more even. Which is much like trying to practice something difficult once every other week rather than every other day. You're not going to get good at it doing it once every other week because you just kind of remember it. That's all. So, yeah. Okay. Thanks, Kyle.
Okay.
Anybody else? Gina? No.
Angela,
Mhm.
okay,
Okay. Oh, sorry, Angela. Okay.
got my hand raised. This, it would be great to get some feedback from everyone that's on here, because one of the, you and I had kind of talked about the lies the other day, and one of the lives that we talked about that people, we got a lot of feedback and comments afterwards, was the licking, which is a physical thing that the dogs do, and the detail with which we went into that people didn't realize the differences of meaning of licking and what it represents for the dog, depending on the breed, depending on the moment, depending on the mindset. I mean, a variety of things. And I feel like there is an opportunity there, express this to you in our conversation, to take more opportunities to teach about specific actions or specific behaviors and various meanings that can go into the detail of the various meanings that can come behind that. Because I feel like so many, it's trainers and owners miss those details, what the dog is presenting to us in communication, because we've gotten into such a culture of anthropomorphization of dogs, and we're not really learning how to listen to what they're telling us through their body language, their actions, etc. So that I feel like there's an opportunity to pick more. Like, I think one of our upcoming topics in the next couple of months, I'd have to look at the calendar, is like piloerection. I think that one's going to be like I'm looking forward to that one, and understanding that more. So just to kind of, I would love to hear from the folks that are here this evening, if A, they agree with that, and B, if they do, what are things that they would like to hear about? And I'm done.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I mean, is this helping you guys? That's the number one question. I have one person with a thumbs up.
Yes. Short and sweet. Yes.
Okay.
I mean, I my short and sweet. I will email too, because I'm like writing a list of things I would like to say. But one of the main thing is you can't find this information much elsewhere. I feel like if you search, you Google dog training, or anything like that, or anything related to dogs, you get stuck in this foodie type training, which still doesn't delve into what dogs are. So this is incredibly helpful to really see your dog from a different light, essentially, from what the main social media or the world is currently viewing them as. So that's the in short.
Okay.
Hey Nelson, I wanted to jump on here real quick. I'm outside in the dark, but it's super helpful. Don't ever doubt that. We're getting a lot out of this. For me, it just gives me a much deeper appreciation and respect for dogs every talk we have, their intelligence. And I agree with Angela, kind of the more specific physical things I feel like I can apply more to clients, or like the licking, or I think we did one on touch, or something similar. It would be interesting to see one. You've kind of mentioned when you do pet your dogs, it's kind of around the eyes, and like learning a little bit more about that, like appropriate touch, human to dog, I think would be cool. But it's all super helpful. It helps me connect to dogs better, my personal dogs, and then the client dogs. I'm still kind of working on motivating clients to learn deeper. Some want to, and some are kind of, can take it or leave it. So, I think it does help inspire them, though, to go into these things, and they're like, wow, I didn't know dogs, were that intelligent. I didn't know they could sense all of these things. And so anyway, it's been super helpful. Yeah.
Good. Okay. Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, I mean, that's the number one thing is it helping you guys? That otherwise it's not worth doing. So, there were, I guess my initial thoughts about doing this series till I die or whatever happens to people stop listening. Because I'll never run out of information or subject matter to talk about with humans and dogs. Number one was, once again, to just kind of keep that educational experience on an even keel, a regular basis, rather than losing people between courses for 8 months or 2 years or whatever else. This is the ability to talk about those things that, as you said, that aren't discussed, or I know there's other people out there who know this. They may not know how to explain it, and I think that's part of the issue, because the guys that that I was around for many, many years, Martin Dealey and well, even Bart Malone, those guys that inherently know these things because they've been around for 40 or 50 years doing this. So they sense these things, but I'm not sure that um, they were ever at a point to focus on trying to explain that, to figure out how to explain it. And that's really what I've spent the past probably 15 years trying to do, is how to explain this to humans in a way that humans understand it, knowing how to reach dogs and understand dogs from a deep visceral level. And trying to give that understanding and experience to people who don't have honestly, a predator prey background like a few of us do, and think about it from a different perspective. So that's part of it. So it was trying to have a continuum, allow a deep dive into very narrow subjects that I never get the chance to, even in a 45-minute offshoot in classes. We still don't get to go this deep in a lot, in a very narrow subject. So though that was really my intent for doing this. And I want to make sure that these subjects, the depth of them and the type, are helpful to you guys, because as I stated a long time ago, I don't have competition. Nobody teaches this stuff. Nobody understands it apparently this way, except for you guys now. And this is, and I don't have competition because you're not my competition. I'm pouring out everything that I possibly know, because I'm not in the dog training business anymore. Specifically, I don't have individual clients. My clients are you guys. That's it. So I want to make you better. So
Yeah,
that's my
Nelson,
yes, sir.
for me, I think probably the biggest piece of it is, right, like a lot of this information is out there to some degree from a ton of different sources,
Okay.
but it's not out there in a way that approaches it from the relationship-based side.
Gotcha.
So having you kind of sit there and moderate, I mean, you obviously know it all very well, but really get to explain it from that side, I think is an invaluable experience. And the regularity really just helps keep us in the right mindset, right?
Okay. Well, thank you, Anthony. Appreciate that feedback on there. Okay. Well, I didn't want to take a lot of time on that, but I do need the feedback. I appreciate that. And hopefully there will be more people interested in this. I always I have conversations with Angela and Valerie and others that, it's like, okay, what are people afraid to know? Why don't they want to know this stuff? I don't get it. I just don't get it. What are they afraid of
have a
learning?
thought.
I
have a
can,
thought. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Go-
Am I
Go.
going?
Yeah. Go ahead, Laura.
Okay. So I think a lot of the part of the reason why people don't feel as they need to know this is because it's drilled into their heads by other people in the industry that there's only one way that you really need to do things, which is their way, which is not this way. So that has a lot to do with the fact that people are like, well, I don't really need that because all I need to do is obedience, because everybody keeps drilling that in my head. So I think that is part of the issue.
Okay.
And I don't think that if they gave it a chance, they'd see how it is different and how it is relevant. I hold lots of conversations with my clients who have been with other trainers, and they're like, yeah, nobody's ever explained this stuff like this before. It's just because they don't have the information, because they're not opening themselves up to accept the information, is what that is. I think a lot of it has to do
Yeah.
with the industry itself.
Seems like everybody's, not everybody, I apologize. Seems like a lot of people just want to stay on the surface of the subject.
Right.
Well, with the information because then there's a responsibility to do something with it, right? And that could completely uproot your entire everything you've ever known, right? So that's really
Yeah.
great for people.
Yeah, I gotta get
think
my
it's-
little my little brain scrambler out and go, ah.
I think it's also hard for people to feel like they're letting go of control by not focusing
Ah.
so hard on the obedience and a strict heel and all these things that can be great for fun, for an activity, but it's not what creates the relationship on its own. But I don't think, if you haven't felt it, it's hard to understand that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I always, coming from the world of training people for years, people like easy. They like really visual, really step-by-step things. And I think that's a lot of what's in the dog training world today is, here, do this little posturing, snap, do this, and your dog will listen. If you just do these repetitions, they'll listen. Where this method really requires you to do the change. It's not the dog so much, it's the person. And
Yeah.
people want to be dog trainers, they don't want to improve on themselves and work on themselves. They want to just train a dog and get recognition for
So
it.
you just answered my question of what are they afraid of learning? They're afraid of themselves.
Yes, of having to change or learn about themselves and really see what's motivating them and moving them. And I won't say most, but a lot of people in the dog training world are about egos. And, they like
No,
to show
I never see that.
do. And this method, you can't have an ego.
No, you can't.
And you have to really examine yourself, change
Yeah.
yourself first, then work on the dog. And then the other thing is, this is not a step-by-step formula. This is really learning about the dogs
Yeah.
on so many different levels that you don't do in just typical dog training. And then you have to learn how to apply it. One of your methods is really learning about the dog, and we don't learn how to really apply it in training till much later. And that takes a long period of time. And I think that deters people from wanting to dig into it because it's too far down the road for them to get to the point where they can do steps.
You wouldn't want to know about what you're actually working with, would you?
They want easy
Before you start working with it.
people want easy and they want formulas. So I really think that's a big part of that. Plus, most people that people learn from are out there doing videos of, here's how I'm doing it, watch me do this. And that's not your method. So you're not out there in a way that people are just seeing you do a lot of work with dogs and they're going, oh, that's impressive. Let me go see what that's about. So,
I'm not a clown show, and I'm not here to impress anybody.
Right. But it also keeps people from really getting more curious because they're not seeing the stuff. So you're really attracting a certain type of person, I think, that really wants to learn about the dog and have a different method. They're frustrated with the strict obedience or the correction, so much corrections and things like that. So they're not so much interested in having a full-on relationship with the dog.
It's funny. Yeah, it's funny when you understand the dog deeply, when you understand yourself and the dog, you don't have to do that many corrections.
Yeah. So, I'm definitely hearing more and more people talk about relationship, that comes first. They're scratching the surface. They're not really delving into all of it. But more and more people, I think, are trying to go that way, or at least it's on their mind to develop that relationship and trust. just they don't all know how to go about it without a lot of the stuff that's been ingrained in them over the years with
Sure.
dog training.
Well, yeah, what I've seen over the years, again, about 4 or 5, maybe 6 years ago, nobody talked about relationship. Nobody, except us. And now it's another fad, another catchword.
It's a
And the
buzzword.
way,
Yeah.
and the way they describe it is let me put it this way. The way I see them think about it in their descriptions is it's about the relationship of the dog to them,
Yeah.
not the other way around.
Yeah. And the few that do try to turn it the other way around just don't have all the pieces. So they're not doing
Right.
it to the extent that they could. I think the new buzzword is now too is holistic trainers, which is cracks me up.
Whatever. Another marketing set of words. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was going to say the same thing. I think their definition of relationship is different than what your
Yeah.
definition of relationship is.
Oh, sure, because they only think in terms of how humans want it.
Right. And I think that's where a disconnect is. People don't.
Yeah. Well, if they don't understand,
that.
if they don't care to know what a dog really is, how it thinks, what its neurobiology is, all of those things, they can't possibly know what's possible from a relationship of them to the dog as in partnership, not partnership of what you want from the dog. So anyway, okay. Yeah, well, we could rant all night long. That's not what I'm trying to do. I apologize. So, and it's not necessary. So this series, this monthly, is not really, the background obviously comes from 50 years of working with dogs and humans and all that stuff. Yeah, but and the understanding the constant revelations in science and medicine and everything else as far as how the brain works, what we're discovering about new. I mean, there's 33,000 different types of, I'm sorry, 3,300 different types. I had a zero in the wrong place in my mind. 3,300 different types of cells in a brain alone. Different types. Neurons are just one of those types. So, we're discovering new things all the time. So how can you say this is it? You can't ever do that. You have to continue studying. So, all right. Thank you very much. I appreciate that feedback. That does help me clarify things. I'll put it that way. So, and this information, regardless of where you come from, what you believe, all of those things, I hope each piece of this, each aspect of this is useful to you, regardless of the methodology, system, whatever you do, however you do it. I hope it makes you more efficient, effective, and frankly, more understanding of both humans and dogs, because you'll be less prone to need as much radical ups and downs of emotion and control and all the other stuff that actually gets in the way of helping dogs and humans. So, okay, so let's get on with this. The devil is in the detail. I started to, yeah, yes,
What I have
sure,
noticed
you are.
well, I'm just got my shirt on. So what I've noticed
SIUCD.
with my clients is that when I start explaining this stuff to them, they are so interested in it. I mean, they live with their dog every day, and I think we don't want to overlook the value it has to our clients. I mean, some people are like, yeah, whatever, but the majority of my clients find it really interesting, and I think it really helps them understand their dog overall. And then once they understand the dog overall, they don't need as much hand holding in detail.
Yeah.
Even
and
though we're
conflict.
talking about detail.
Right, right. Well, they see the detail in the information and the perspective, and they
Mhm.
can provide the answers for themselves. Once again, once you understand the subject matter, how many of you guys had differential equations in college?
My husband's raising his hand, not me.
Yeah. So
I
Diffie-Q, if all you have is an understanding of 2 + 2, and I ask you to solve equations or actually provide equations in differential equations, come up with integrations for, let's say, a hydraulic flow, it would be impossible for you to understand even what I'm talking about. So instead, what I see is, basic algebraic information out there and understanding of dogs. And that's all it is. They're looking at the outside and they want what they want, and they get it by drilling. And there's another way to go about that, because frankly, algebra, geometry, trigonometry, etc., and then into what's called calculus, or the beginning of it, analytical geometry and all those things. Then you start seeing the shortcuts of having to do millions of calculations and equations to come up with what you can finally understand with one not so simple equation, but an equation that you can get the answer in a much shorter amount of time. And that's really what this is about, is to understand, hate to use the word, the mathematics behind it, but the mathematics behind it. And that really helps you not frustrate yourself and come up with a much better solution quicker. And that's what you're describing when you give the information to the client about what their dog is, why is it doing what it does. So anyway, okay, here
One
we
more
go.
thing. Can I say one more thing? So I
Yeah,
almost
sure.
feel like, and this is just a thought that just came to me. The difference is, do you want a business relationship with your dog, or do you want a personal relationship with your dog?
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
You know what I mean? So business is, yeah, we'll do sit down, place, come stay. That's business. We're gonna take care of business. And
Transactional.
yeah,
Transactional
right. But then the
relationship.
personal relationship is all this other stuff.
Yeah, that's 99% of the time.
Hmm.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, guys. I appreciate it greatly. All right. So when I thought about this subject originally, um, how many of you guys, just kind of raise your hand if you've got your um, camera on you? How many of you guys have done online course 1 where we analyze? Okay, so a number of you. Okay. And we analyze every microsecond of movement with you and your dog. And when you aren't present, aren't aware, and you lose your dog in that quarter second when it checks in with you and decides you're an idiot and goes off on its own because you weren't present there with it. So, that's what I'd been watching for years. Is I watch trainers, handlers, whatever else, not they demand everything of the dog and little of themselves to be present and understand the dog, and miss so much of the conversation, the signals from the dog. And it was one of the reasons that I started the leash handling courses, because I wanted to have people aware and the reason we do the specific exercises in course one, to make you aware of that microsecond that you missed and you lost your dog in that microsecond. And, you know, a dog's brain, that pause, they check in, you can see it in their brain, that little pause for between a quarter to a half a second, sometimes an eighth of a second, if they're very fast brain, smart dogs. You got that much time to respond, to acknowledge, or you've lost them. They've decided you don't get it. You don't understand what's out here in the environment. You don't understand that there's an issue here. There's a disconnect that I'm trying to reconnect with you, and you don't have it. And that's that species aspect of different species and understanding. So the devil is in the detail in all of those things. And I just found a lot of awkwardness and off timing misses with most humans. And I don't mean to denigrate anybody. That's not my purpose in saying this, but just in observations. And I think what people over the years have, you know, when they see me with a dog and I'm engaged with the dog, I understand what's going on in its brain, how it feels, all of those things, and we are instantly communicating back and forth 4 or 5 times a second with each other. And it's, if you don't get what's going on with the dog, I'll give you an example. So I posted about, you know, Jason Vasconi coming up to the Fort Worth Stock Show and Rodeo here in Fort Worth a couple of weeks ago, and he was competing in the herding. They had within the rodeo facility there, and they competed with sheep, 3 sheep at a time, different teams of sheep that they would bring in, and then all the signaling for the dogs. Most of them were border collies. There were a few Australians. There was even a Kelpie or two. And the communication between the human and the dog, you could tell the difference between the people who had the relationship with the dog and the ones that wanted to control and command the dog. The people who wanted to control and command the dog were looking at the dog, and they weren't understanding the sheep. And it's not that the dog is opposed to the sheep. The dog and the sheep are partners in getting information to each other. And so the dogs have the capability. It's the human dog relationship that gets disconnected, and you see it instantly. And the dog gets frustrated, and the sheep don't know what to do because they're not getting the information from the dog. So if the handlers that watched the sheep, they didn't need to watch the dog. They could give signals to the dog based on what the sheep did. So that's where I think people are looking at trying to control this instead of looking at results back here beyond that control aspect and respond to what's actually happening. If you have never seen a professional group like that work with herding dogs and sheep, you should make an effort to go see that, participate in it, and just study it, because it's very fascinating. It's actually a blast. And while Jason he and I sat together for a while, and we had a lot of discussions about things. So between his time out there and you know, his group out there, and just being able to because it takes 3 hours for the first for all the groups and all the individuals to get through the first time. Then you have the second time and so on. So the details then are, what is the result? Why is that result that way? So let's talk about, and I'm going to go kind of broadly and then dive into just a little bit of surface, below the surface on these things. So first, the detail categories, okay? First is the dog. What's the breed of the dog? When I hear old trainer saws that are thrown out there and still thrown out there, like just train the dog, it just, sorry, it used to go all over me and piss me off. I'm sorry, it's not Marine, it's not Marine Navy training to break down everybody and make them into a Marine. You got to work with each individual dog. So isn't it important to know what that dog is? So because of breeds, the breed of the dog, is it a domestic dog? Okay. By domestic, I mean modern European types. Is it an ancient breed dog? Is it a mastiff? Is it an Akita? Is it a Siberian Husky? Is it a Sholoinsquili? What is it? Those are ancient breed dogs. Those behave differently. If you try to work the same way with every breed, you are going to be very unsuccessful and very frustrated and not reach that particular breed that you don't know a thing about or are trying to force and crush into your Marine training. It's just going to go right to you. Okay. Is it a primal breed? And you got dingoes, you've got, Thai Ridgebacks, New Guinea singing dogs. You've got all sorts of different types of primal breeds of dogs that aren't going to take things from humans in the same way that our modern domestic dogs that have been bred to take direction from us. Is it a hunting type? Is it a herding type? Those are you might want to know that information. And so is it a sled dog? Sled dogs, their life is to pull and to hunt. That's what they want to do. And if you deny that, don't want them to do that, you're trying to, whatever normal means and methods that you apply to, Labradors and others, probably isn't going to be as effective or as quick. What about terriers? There's all types of terriers. Every European province and county has got its own brand of terrier, right? Glen of them all. You've got all, it's just on and on and on. And they're all specific to a tiny bit difference of either use, prey, purpose, et cetera, et cetera. Is it a guardian breed? Is it an LGD? Is it a think on its own feet type like an Akita or even a Shih Tzu, frankly? Is this dog male or female? Makes a difference. So once again, details. So I always ask, what's the dog breed? Is it a male or female? Spayed, neutered, all that stuff. How long ago? When was it? Was it early spay or neuter? Which is going to give you an entirely different set of calculations, if you will, differential equation, to problem solve for that particular dog and that particular client. Because early spay and neuter is going to mess up hormones, mess up the brain, body development, maturity, all the other things in ways that frankly are quite variable depending on the particular dog and its breed, its genetic makeup, all of those things. So, again, you can see you could dive down into each one of these little subcategories for an hour, just talking about each one of these little. So this isn't just surface, but it's not one of these deep dives like we've done before. These are the things you must consider to understand the devil's in the details. So each one of these is worth studying to a very deep level, guys. Okay, and then for the dog, what are the behaviors? What are the neural behaviors of the dog? And I mean that from both the neurology of the brain, but also the neural pathways, which means that the physical capability and development of the dog, the movement, the maturity of the dog, the capabilities of it from that aspect too, because every dog is different. You can take brother sister out of a litter and they have different neural capacities and capabilities. I want to know that. That's important information. What are the genetics of this dog? There's a lot of fussing out there on social media about the genetic makeup of dogs now. And there seems to be, I don't know, I've been trying to go through this in my mind over and over again, is one, you've got the spay neuter aspect, which is actually taking good genetics out of the breeding pool. Probably more so than not spaying and neutering, because it's based on demand. It's not based on how many dogs you can produce. If you can't sell them, they won't sell them, right? So they won't produce them. It's just like anything else. It's supply and demand, guys. So we're taking a lot of good dog genetics out. And then what are you left with? Backyard breeders, puppy mills that don't care about genetics. So I'm not sure that we have the right answer on controlling populations that way. I don't have that answer because humans are humans and they want what they want. So it's just something for everybody to ponder, consider, and talk about to your clients and others. What are the environmental behaviors of that dog? In other words, every environment it goes to, it's going to behave in certain ways. If that's a very strong, confident dog that doesn't want to push itself on everybody and everything, that's a wonderfully composed dog in any environment that you put it in. And that's a fantastic, that's a unicorn dog right there. So, but there's other dogs that every environment, everything new, every change in the environment is an upset to it, is a potential threat, is scary. We have a lot of dogs like that anymore, much more so than 30 or 40 years ago, frankly. So what are the environmental behaviors in that dog? How does it see the environment it's in? Can it live with itself, essentially? Can it trust the human, frankly? And that we'll get to that. Now, what is it trained and learned? What's it learned? What's it trained already in behaviors? What are the social aspects? We've got antisocial, asocial, social, and pro-social behaviors as four major categories of sociality. So what are the social aspects of that particular dog? Those are details we need to know. And we need to understand what each one of those means and what are the possible behaviors in each one of these categories. And the most pro-social dog in the world can become antisocial instantly. It's not necessarily a personality type, can be, but it's also dogs are capable of supporting others as well as defending themselves. So the most pro-social dog on earth, if you push it into a corner, it's back up against the corner and it sees no other way out. Speaking of ways out, it can become very antisocial very quickly. Okay. Me too, by the way. I can be very friendly. Sorry. Okay, another part of the category of the dog. What's the age of the dog? I want to know what the age is. Why? I want to know the general area of mental development, physical development, sexual development on that scale and through the lifetime of a dog that dog particularly is. So you've got puppy stages, and if you don't know those, and I'm not trying to I'm not trying to be mercenary here, but the puppy development course is online now. It's capable. Isn't it, Angela? Don't we have that up? No, I'm sorry. I lied. Okay. Well, we do have the class coming up. When is that? Puppy development. It's end of February, isn't it? Yes. 26th through 28th of February. Okay. Anyway, find out about what the stages of puppies are, how they develop, brain, body. Sometimes they're congruent, sometimes they're incongruent, etc. Then, so you got puppy stages, you got adolescence. Okay, you've got all the testing, all the frankly new neural pathways that all of a sudden, even though they learned something, it's gone. Why? Because another neuron pops up in the way of that old pattern, and there is no pattern anymore. So yes, they have to relearn things. People get frustrated about that, and it's simply biology. So adolescent stage, you've got early adult maturing, the maturation of that, where they're sexually sort of mature, but they still haven't figured out mentally and physically how to put that all together. It took Bosch till he was about 2 years and 6-7 months before he was actually fully mature. Bosch being the German Shepherd, and he has, well, let me put it this way. So he's aged well now. He's almost 3.5, and it's taken that time for him to be comfortable with what he's matured into. So now he is what he is, essentially. Then you've got full adult, then you've got senior, and then you've got completely aged. So I've got several stages of these. I had early with Bosch. I had early, now he's a full adult. I've got Toffee, who's a full adult at 5 years old. I've got a senior with, Callie, the husky, at 10 years of age. And I've got very aged with a 20-year-old husky. That's Bella, second oldest husky in the world that we know of. So, as a matter of fact, I just helped Kimberly, who has the oldest husky in the world, get her dog back to health because she was having problems again, almost died. So we worked on some nutrition and some other things. She's back to walking and trotting along. So okay, so that's just basic elements of what I need to know, the detailed categories about the dog. Okay, that's just basic stuff, guys. That's what I want to know every time. And I ask particular questions of my clients, or did, and I still do. I mean, some of you guys call me up with issues about some dog that you're working or your own, et cetera, and we'll talk. And what are the questions that I ask? These things right here. Okay, so those are basic elements. There's others, but behaviors. I want to know how this dog acts within certain areas. Then you have to know the why. So the environment is a lot about it. So what is the home environment for that particular dog? And it's not just, is it an apartment or is it a house? Do they have a fence around their backyard that they can let the dog out into? Do they have to take the dog out on leash always? Is it severe urban and there's no grass anywhere, like, down, Manhattan, where you come out of a 40-story building in in an elevator with 3 other dogs going down onto concrete sidewalk to go pee around the corner somewhere on a on a post somewhere, and that's the only environment that dog knows. So that's part of it, but it's about the home too, the space and the understanding of a closed environment versus an open environment. And if the dog never gets the chance to be in an open environment, that's a very important detail, because that dog is never going to know, it's never going to be able to learn how to make its own decisions in certain ways. So then there's conflict back and forth between human wanting to control all outcome and dog never learning other than being in conflict with the human, because human wants what a human wants versus what the dog wants. So those types of things, very important if you have a small environment to live in, even if it's luxurious to a human, it's a very deprived environment to that dog. And so it doesn't have learning opportunities that other dogs do, making their own decisions. Okay, well, that's an important detail that you need to have. Does this dog go out in the woods with the people off leash and have a brilliant life out there, but then come back into an urban or suburban area and it can't handle that environment? So we need to know all of those things. What about sound? What about smells? People don't think about the smells that are out there, but that's all the dogs see and think about. So, when you go to, and I give these examples in other classes, when you go to a Home Depot and you go in there and then you go to a different Home Depot and you go, well, it's the same thing, but the dog's responding and reacting differently because it smells different. It has different sounds. Doesn't matter. They don't know it's Home Depot. It's not the same company. They don't care. Okay. It smells different. It sounds different. There's different people in there. The lighting is different. All of those things. So that's a new environment. And and this is your presence of mind of what's going on with the dog, not staring at the dog, but being aware of how that dog responds. Those are the details that you need to understand that's going to help you help that dog. Okay. Territory. So good segue to next month, which is about how dogs see territory, what it means to them, in other words, not to us in the way that we do anymore. So, what is the environment that dog, what territories does it see? And that has to do with not just internal inside of a house or an apartment or, I don't care, the vacation spot, whatever it is, not just inside, but outside. Dogs have to know where their limits are. Um, you know, Poffy sees a dog walking across, in front of our house here, and she does the, wanting me to look out to make sure that it's okay. And I go, yeah, I got it, no problem. If I don't respond, she starts barking. Hey, there's someone in our field of vision in our territory, even though she knows the exact limits of our territory as far as I can let her out in the front yard. She goes to the edges of the front yard and knows that's it. She didn't step out in the street. She didn't go to the neighbor's yard either side. That's it. But still, whatever you can see, well, that's a potential threat. It's also what we call ETJ, extraterritorial jurisdiction, because there's no other dog out there usually. So that's ours too. So territory and how that dog sees territory. If you go to a location 3 times and you continue to go that 3rd time, that's your territory too. And whatever is in it a dog park. Okay. Dog park is chaos. Different smells, different dogs, different people every single time you go there, which is why there's so much conflict in there because, and most dogs, again, are magnanimous. So how they respond in those environments that's information we need to know. What are the humans in the environment? What are they like? Is it, two 90-year-olds that have a herding breed that wants to get out and work and run and everything else, and they can't even get off the couch? Or, is it a young couple that loves to go hiking all the time and they've got a bloodhound that wants to lay on the couch? Or, is it a couple that has young children running around constantly in total chaos? That what are the humans, and also the frequency of things that humans come in and out of that environment, not just others, but the kid that goes away to college for 9 months and then comes home. The humans think of it as home, and the dog goes, I didn't agree for this guy to be part of this. What's he doing here? So, who are the humans in the environment, how they see it, what are the details about them, how much engagement do they have, all of those things. What about other dogs? So, in studies, in a lot of the classes that we do, we look at, for instance, we look at an MRI of human brain versus dog brain and sound, just how sound affects which sounds, human, dog, environment. Okay. Humans are human oriented. Virtually nothing about dogs and very little about environment anymore, because we've gotten away from that. Dogs are dog and environment oriented, and tiny little spots that are human sounds that they even pay attention to. So if you look at the focus of a dog brain, it is dog oriented and environment oriented, even in nose. Okay. So dogs and other animals are the most important things that dogs focus on: the brain, the sound, the nose, and their vision first and foremost. So what are those other dogs? What are those other animals in the household? What's around them? What's next door? All of those things. We've got to know those details. Again, the extraterritorial jurisdiction of that, if I can see through the fence, or if I can see through a little sliver in a crack, and there's a dog over there, that's a threat. Okay. Travel. Do people travel with their dog, and how does that dog respond to travel, movement itself, as well as, is it consistent to the same places? Is it just one place? Is it chaos, multiple places? Do they take their dog with them when they go on vacation and other things? So those are information that you can get and help. What activities does the dog do? What does the dog want to do? What does it get to do? What do the humans engage and other dogs engage with it in those activities? So then we got another element within for the environment, which is time. So the main thing about time is, what are the changes? Okay. In other words, the amount of time between transitional changes. Can a dog count on being in a location for years, or do they move around every 3 months, which doesn't make any sense to a dog? How many dogs have you guys worked with that have been in 3 or 4 different environments and locations, had to live there in a year's time? And you see how the dog is just confused, doesn't trust the humans, et cetera, et cetera. I saw it all the time. I always asked, what's changed? Well, our dog just started doing this. Okay, what's changed? Oh, nothing. Okay, let's discuss a little bit more. Oh, well, our son came home from college, but that's no big deal. Yes, it is to the dog. It's a major variable. Oh, and we happened to move from that house to this house 6 months ago, too. About the time the dog started doing all this stuff. So information like that helps you solve the problem of how that dog understands the world and why it's doing what it's doing. So it's not about forcing a dog into an obedient state and to accept whatever you do to it. It's about understanding where that came from and problem solving for the humans and the dog to get back some stability within their own relationship and their lives, essentially. Okay. So home base moves. What other dogs have come in? How many times have you worked with a client where new dog comes in 7 to 10 days or 3 months down the line, they start fighting or they start, the whole relationship changes because a new dog comes in. Younger, older, doesn't really matter. Lots of things. I used to get that probably, gosh, I don't know, probably 10% of my behavioral cases and training cases were about a dog, a new dog into the pack, so to speak. Okay. In some way, shape, or form. And a lot of them were, a little dog that got up on somebody's lap and the big dog wasn't allowed. So the big dog attacked to try to kill the little dog over and over and over again. Those happened all the time. Who are the human occupants? In other words, the numbers, the individuals, the ages, the frequency, not just the human pack family. How many changes can you go through before you don't understand what's stability? And, cousins and brothers coming in and, the neighbors and your buddies and kids, and it just becomes chaos. It's something that a dog cannot trust. It doesn't understand. Dogs naturally don't just allow everybody in with them. They don't trust all of that. So, they have to live with us, and we're providing very little substantive information to the dog about what's going on, why it's happening, and that we've got this. They don't have to worry about it. So all of those changes that occur that humans don't think anything about it because that's normal to us, but it's not for a dog. The guests and the sequences of guests coming over. Had one case years ago where a couple was getting a divorce. Very wealthy couple, German Shepherd, they had young kids and they had teenagers and everything else all over constantly. And dog was fine with that because it knew the teenagers weren't in charge, but and they both still lived there. So the husband came in, brought his drinking buddy in, and the dog, German Shepherd, attacked the drinking buddy. So they decided, well, we got to get rid of the dog. So they wanted me to take him. Of course. So, those are the types of things, the guests and sequences, etc. I kind of gave him some ultimatums on that because I wasn't going to take a severely, well, let me put it this way. I made him an offer to, they gave up all rights to the dog, etc., and gave me a whole lot of money in case the dog ever attacked someone. I'd get sued, kill a dog, one of my own, vet bills, all that other stuff. they got back to me a week later and said, well, our attorney says you should do it for half of that. I said, well, then give it to your attorney. So, matter of fact, that dog, any of you guys know who Mary Missouri was, or is, I should say, not was. Mary is an excellent trainer out of Chicago, long term, friend of mine, and anyway, she worked with that dog until it was 6 months old, and they moved from Chicago down into Texas. I'm not going to say exactly where. And when I heard she had worked with it as a puppy, I called her up and we had a discussion. She said, yeah, that I remember that dog, and it was not well put together mentally. So that told me everything I needed to know. So anyway,
Wait,
see,
so
those are,
you didn't take the dog?
oh, I would have for the right price.
Right, of course. You said to give it to the attorney. Right. So
Yeah,
okay. So you
I
don't
heard they gave it to her brother.
Oh Lord have mercy.
Yeah,
Wow.
good luck with that. I don't know what happened. I'm not a rescue. I'm not a rescue group, and those are lines you have to put down. If you are in rescue and you take on things like that, just understand you have to recognize that you may be working with that dog for years. And humans in management make mistakes. That's where things happen. So, anyway, okay. So the second area, uh, actually, is that second or third? Well, the dog, the environment is the second. The third is yourself. Details. Your behavior. It matters. It counts, guys. And your behavior can be externally, outwardly, I will say. You could be composed to completely neurotic, anywhere in between there. What's appropriate at what time? To me, neurotic is never appropriate, period, much less working with a dog or a client. So, on the compose scale, once again, if you go back to some of the earlier talks that we've had, that composed line, if there's any contrast there, you get the attention immediately, and you don't have to fight this kind of neuroticism that humans normally do. So your behavior counts enormously. The details of that matter. That's what I try to teach in these classes, is your details of you. And is your behavior human-like, meaning completely in your own head, banging pots and pans and unaware of what your behavior does to everybody else? Or is it dog-like, where you're very understanding of the potential threats and possibilities in the environment, which means everything but you? Okay. So on which end of that scale would you rather be? So if you're composed and you're more dog-like in your understanding of the environment and behavior, how you behave in that environment, that's an important detail to have, isn't it? Really is. You can be confident to completely uncertain. And by confident, I don't mean arrogant. I mean just knowing. And so if that knowing thing, that behavior didn't work, you don't have to go to uncertainty. You try something else, being certain, because you have experience with whatever that input for that dog is. So you don't ever go to the uncertain position. Okay. Those details matter. Emotional levels. Everybody gets emotional at times. I have one emotion. You don't ever see it, but Anyway, it's when is a particular emotion and to what level, and what is the recovery time? Is it appropriate? You know, and I mentioned this in a little bit, which is about congruity. Congruity is alignment. If these things don't align, if what's going on, the behavior and thoughts of that dog, your clients, and you, if that doesn't all align at the same time in the same way, especially since you as professionals should be providing the guidance for all of this to work, you should be appropriate in your levels, your timing, and your recovery time for if it's taken care of, you don't hang on to it. It's over. Done. The timing, the detail of timing is about wanting to control the outcome rather than influence everybody else to see the right way to go. Okay. So, and again, that speaks to emotional levels too. What level and what is your recovery time? If you're, you can be startled, but you should instantly, as soon as you recognize what it is. So you need to practice. If you're in a startled situation, you need to practice how fast do I recognize exactly what that is, to what level, is it a threat? Is it not a threat? To what threat level? All of those things. If you don't practice that over and over again and recover instantly, once you know there is no emotional response anymore, there's no need for it. If you do go into an emotional response, that is your ego talking. That's about you. It's not about the situation. Okay. And that's a detail that matters, guys, because who trusts somebody who flies off the handle? That it's all about them, the emotion, and you know it, you sense it, and I guarantee you the dogs do. If it's all about you, I can't trust you. Why would I want to do what you tell me to do if it's all about you? It's about your outcome instead of about the dogs. So, which direction of influence? Is it the dog to you or you to the dog? I don't let dogs influence outcomes. I understand dogs to where they can have influence on me if I accept it to partnership level. When they try to do something other than pro-social behavior, I'm going to influence that and say, no, that's not what we do. That's not how we do it. This is what we do instead. So you're constantly problem solving those things. For yourself, then it's awareness is the next category within yourself. Are you human world obsessed? In other words, you think humans are it, we're the center of the universe. Trust me, the universe doesn't even know we're here. Okay. It doesn't care. It's vast. It's 96 billion light years across right now. We're on a tiny little speck of dust. And, so do you think of everything in terms of human aspects, period? Dog isn't going to have a chance. Comprehension of canine understanding of thought and how dogs experience reality. In other words, they are nose and mouth brain oriented. Everything supports the nose and the mouth, nose especially. That's how they, quote unquote, see their environment. Their brain is focused on what does it smell like? That gives them the picture of what's around them, period. Their ears, their eyes, their mouth support the nose. We are eye hand dominant. And that's what our brain is focus like, and that's why we think the way we do. It's why we behave the way we do. Our mouth, our smell, our hearing, everything else is to support how we see things. Our language even is dominant to see this, look here, all those things that we always say because we have no other way of describing it because our brain is focused on nothing but sight. So comprehension of that and how dogs experience reality is so important. That's a major factor, and the details matter. So if you don't understand how a dog experiences and trusts or distrusts the universe, it's all about what you smell like. Okay. Okay. Timing and context of the environment and transitions. So awareness, again, this is the major category. Awareness of the timing and the context of environment and the transitions. So you guys that have been through course 1 online, when we analyze every microsecond of your videos and you see that, what is it about? Timing, context, transitions. Those are the 3 major things. You have to be aware. You have to be present with that in that moment to see it and be able to understand that. Okay. Next category within yourself is communication capabilities. How do you carry your body? What are you actually signaling with your body? And again, course 1 online, we go into pretty good detail on most of that. The angle of your shoulders, how you carry yourself, which direction are your feet and your knees pointed. Bosh, hey buddy. Sorry, scratching himself. Eyes, ears, nose, hands, feet, your joints, how your joints align, what direction are you pointing one way with your feet, upper body, your head, and then your, other stuff. Are you incongruous? Are you at a standstill and not sure? All of those things dogs pick up. So you must be aware of what are your communication capabilities to the dogs? Are you even aware of those? Brain patterning, training yourself to become more communicative in the way the dog understands. Not teaching the dog English or German or whatever else. They don't get that. Okay. It's a lot easier for you to understand the dog. And what communication tools that you have, literally and figuratively. Okay. So then the other aspect about yourself, timing. Being present is one of the most important things. When you go into your own mind, I always described when I worked with these, 8 to 10,000 behavior cases, and literally it was behavior before training. Timing was everything because, I really didn't want to get my legs chewed off by these truly aggressive dogs. And I didn't want to scare the crap out of a dog to die in a corner because it was terrified of me moving 80 feet away by doing something like this. And it was terrified and wanted to not exist. So your presence, your understanding of the situation, your capability of being situationally aware of everything going on and see how that dog responds to all those little tiny things, scent, smell, wind direction, sounds, movements, the environment itself. Are you indoors? Are you outdoors? All of those things, the presence of mind, because if you think about something internally, you've just disconnected with the environment and that dog and that other person. So you have to train yourself how to be present when it counts, which is all the time you're around those. Okay. So you can have a conversation with a person and still be completely aware of your surroundings. You need to train that. It's one of the reasons I recommend people to take serious martial art, because you have to be aware of everything around you and handle the situation. Okay? And you train that over and over and over again. So comprehending the dog, environment, viewpoint, significance of what's going on. That's all within timing and being present. Your response time. Do you not know what to do? Dogs see humans and not know what to do all the time. They can't trust you because they have a response time of an eighth to half a second. And if you're staring at something and surprised for 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 seconds, the dog's got to take over. It has to, because it's got to survive, and it's all about survival. If that dog sees you totally stumped, okay, you're not a very useful thing anymore. You're a liability. You're an idiot, essentially. Okay. So you simply became a burden to it. I have seen so many dogs amp things up because they know their human is not capable of understanding and responding in the right amount of time the way the dog sees it. So timing response, what response level. Humans don't trust that they can communicate well, and they don't know how to do it with dogs or other humans, frankly. And so they overdo it on response level. If if I stuck my face here and I yelled everything at you because I thought you weren't, because I didn't know how to communicate to you, I just yelled to get your attention. I'd insult you, you would shut me off real quick. I'd be staring at a blank screen here. So it's about how you respond, to what level is it appropriate at that. And that's what you need to learn to work with that dog, the detail of that particular dog. And then the response type. Is it appropriate to yell at a dog every time it does something you don't want it to do? Or kick a milk crate toward it, or anything else? Was that response necessary? Just enough and no more. That's the level you're trying to find for each and every dog you work with. And it's different for every dog, for every situation. The details matter. Okay. So, last element here is results equals congruity. The result you get, deal with congruity. In other words, everything aligning. If it doesn't align, you're not getting the results. You're losing the dog, you're losing the client. Okay. So you have to present the whole thing in a logical order to the people and to the dog. And that doesn't mean step 1, step 2, step 3. You have to paint this picture of their dog to them. And you have to show this dog humans aren't total idiots, and we don't really mean bad things by these things that we do. So let's close that gap between, because that's our job, is to close the gap between humans and dogs. Okay. So you can't do that without trust. So you have to be consistent. You have to be calm, composed, and consistent. You have to be relevant to the dog and relevant to your client at the same time. If you're not reaching either one, you've failed. Okay. The dog and the humans have to feel safe with you. They have to trust you. They have to understand that you're there for their best interest. It's not about you showing off. Don't ever show up your clients, ever, because it'll come back to bite you, and it's usually the dog that does. So see everything as a partnership. We have a choice. We don't have subjects. We have partnerships with the people and with the dogs. if all you want to do is dominate and have a subject, well, go be the leader of some totalitarian government somewhere. That's what you're asking for. It's all about partnership. How do we survive best together? And how do we negotiate this social contract between each other? Okay? Those details matter, guys. And then what's the comprehension on both sides? Not a matter of just communicating. It is about the comprehension. If you're communicating all you can and there's no comprehension from the other side, you got to change course. Okay. You have to reach that other person and that other dog. So, this particular subject matter here, you see how wide and deep it can go. Everything is in the details, guys. This is not a formula. This is you must think about these things. This is like me teaching originally that 1 day lost dog course. It wasn't 1 day, was just literally listing all the things you had to think about, and what wasn't even getting into what dogs do and how you recover them. So that's really how I feel about this. Is each one of these could be a monthly talk, but there's so many other things. So I hope, I knew this was going to be more surface than depth this time because we had to cover so much stuff. I hope this helps refocus you. And obviously I'm not fussing at you guys. I'm passionate about this because when you discover these things and you understand these, this really helps you. It really does. So that's, started to get my one emotion out there. That passion for this. So okay. So that was about an hour. I think we talked up to this point. So I'm going to stop there on this particular subject. I could go for days, obviously, on that, but the next one is, let's see, our next meeting is February 21st.
Correct.
And it is, what is territory to the dog? What does territory mean to the dog? Okay.
I think this is going to be a good one. It's a good application for day-to-day living with your dog, and that people can pass along to their clients.
Okay, good. Well, I hope it helps codify a few things. And that's frankly the past, 15, 20 years. I have just tried to figure out how to codify information to pass it along to you guys. That's really what I've been doing. So I hope I'm getting better at it.
Thank you.
That's my goal. So anyway, okay, guys. Well, I appreciate you guys greatly. If you have, again, this isn't about being mercenary. It's about spreading knowledge and information. If you have clients that are struggling, if you have, if you know other trainers that are struggling and you feel like this would be helpful to them in any way, shape, or form, please let them know about it. I'm not one of those guys that is out there with my face out there all the time trying to get everybody to love me and get 1 million followers. I don't want to do that, frankly. The people who are actually interested in gaining knowledge, I don't want followers. I want people who want to learn. So that's really it. So again, I appreciate you. I'm honored that you spend your time listening to me yap. So all
We're
right.
just happy you're still around to yap.
Yeah, well, I only have 346 years left, so my 1,000-year expiration.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Good night, and thank you very much.
Thanks, Nelson.
All
Thank you,
right.
Nelson.
Real quick before everybody hops off, real quick.
Sorry.
a beer just texted in the chat and she's like, I have so many questions. FYI, write down, just as a reminder for everyone, write down your questions because we do have a Q&A coming up in a couple of months.
Yes.
So I send them my way and I will put them on a list so that we can answer those questions when we get back together for that Q&A.
Okay.
Okay.
Thanks, Angela. Appreciate it. All right. Adios.